Hey, and welcome to another Fan Expo video. This one is going to touch on a subject that is, well, honestly, I think it's probably the one thing, the biggest draw maybe, of all things that happen at a convention, and that is the guests, the people who are going to be attending it, whether they be big superstars or little independents, people who are well known through movies and television, or maybe they are just a local artist. Essentially, the guests are a big draw to conventions, and I mean they take up a lot of what, the events and stuff that happen there. Q&As, panels, discussions, instructions, all that kind of stuff usually are put on by the guests of some sort. Sometimes they're put on by groups, but it's often the case where it's the guests who have been invited and they make up these events based off of those guests. So let's take a look at Fan Expo for this year, 2014, and take a look at the guests and the big draw. So the first thing we'll look at is the fact that most of the stuff takes place in the North Building. This is where the big guests have their signing booths. You'll see them all down there, basically lining that one wall, which you saw in a previous video. Here they are essentially, where they were setting up. This is where all the lines were going to be. And you can see the names and the picture in front of each of the place where they were going to be signing. So this is the big draw area. And that's where you get names like Dave Bautista. Yes, you know him. Sean S. Cunningham, producer. Edward James Olmos. Yes, can't go wrong with that boy. And of course, the ever-popular Nathan Fillion. And then this is what it looks like when actual people are signing. And of course, that big crowd there is all there for this year's special guest, the biggest draw. That's right, Mr. Matt Smith. Doctor Who himself. I'd say this was the biggest draw for 2014. I mean, I lined up. That's the reason why I was going there myself. The biggest reason was for Matt Smith. Anytime there's going to be a Doctor Who person there, I'm kind of all over that. So it's not uncommon. But Arthur Darvill was also there. More Doctor Who. Bruce Campbell, also generally a big draw, but I already had his autograph. Hulk Hogan, if you're into the wrestling, Hulk Hogan was there. Here's Heather Langenkamp from the Nightmare on Elm Street series doing some signings, and right next to her, of course, Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund, both of which I already had their signature, so I wasn't really needing to get in those lines, though I mean I could have, because they were very short at some points. Other guests were Ray Park. You know him. There he is. I went to his Q&A or whatever you call it. Ted Raimi was also there. William Shatner. He's been there a few times, so he is what it is. Here's John Saxon. The man is getting old, so I was very happy to see him at the convention. That was pretty cool. Elijah Wood finally made an appearance. Burt Ward, and of course, Trish Stratus. Lauren Cohen from, The Walking Dead. And, but something that was a little different, and the first time for this year, was just off to that place where all those people were doing all their signings. I didn't get any video footage of it. There was a separate little section full of people who are into cosplay, and I guess big cosplayers like Ivy Doomkitty, Leanna Vamp, Meg Turney, Yaya Han, and Jessica Nigri, and of course we had Lights as well, who was there, Murdoch Mysteries, Lost Girl. And here is the panel for Twin Peaks. There was The Walking Dead, which included, of course, I already mentioned one of them, and that was Lauren Cohen, but there was also, I don't know how to spell her or pronounce her name, Danae Gurira, David Morrissey was there, and of course the ever popular, he keeps coming back, he must love this city, Norman Reedus. But that wasn't it. One of the big draws and a big happy is this man here. Yeah, you know him. You know him really well. Here he is at the Troma booth. This is Michael Rooker, one of the fan favorites of the show. He essentially, well, if you know the story behind him and Troma, there's a reason why he's in this booth. And I believe he just decided to go over there. I think he might have been looking to see if Lloyd was in town, which he normally is, but he wasn't this year because he had Dragon Con to be at. So, either way, he decided to show up and show his support. And of course, I don't think Troma saw more activity at their booth than at this point. I'm actually standing in the Toronto After Dark booth shooting this footage. So, yeah. It was pretty cool. And then, it's one of the big things is panels. So, of course, The Walking Dead had their panel, and like I said, Lost Girl and Murdoch Mysteries. But one of the other panels there was a very special one, and one of the main reasons for me going.
And the other thing, obviously, great performances. Some really great actors in this piece, and great local actors, two of which are here today. Art Hindle, of course, who played Chris, and Lynn Griffin, who played Claire. So I'm going to open up to the book.
That's right.
This chap just now.
Black Christmas, yes. All of these people were all in that movie and all involved.
The voices of Billy. This chap over here.
Okay, so
Lumberjack.
So the voices of Billy.
So yeah, I mean, Black Christmas. It was nice to have all those actors and producers and everything come together and be able to do that. I do know that Art Hindle has been at the convention many times. Of course, it's Canadian film. Canadian. He's been in the area more often than not. So this wasn't his first Fan Expo, but the other ones, I don't think any of the other people had ever been to the convention before, as far as I know. So to have them all there for the Q&A, I guess, the whatever you want to call it, was pretty special. I really enjoyed that. But Fan Expo started off as a Comic-Con, so it's got comics, right? Well, actually, comics comprise probably, I'd say probably the majority, though the sci-fi, the guests and stuff are really starting to creep up on it lately. It's still one of the big draws, and for the comic stuff this year, you had to move over to the South Building, which, if you didn't know it, the comic artists have their own signing area, complete, all roped off. And just check out, this is just a fraction of the guests who are from comics, and I mean a small fraction of the guests. And they didn't just end up in that signing area. Sometimes they are at the comic company's booths, but a lot of the other times they are in Artist Alley, which is independents as well as well-known artists. Tony Moore. You know him. That's where he had his booth, over in the Artist Alley, and all the independents and well-knowns and all that kind of stuff. They all have their little places where they sign their autographs and get the independent guys sell their wares and try and get their name out there, and often try and get their name in. But this year's big thing was the man himself, Stan Lee. That's right. If you're gonna have comics, Stan Lee is the man. Now, he's been there several, and I mean several times over the course of the last few years. Amazingly enough, I'm surprised he's been there so much. But well, considering he's getting free, he's canceled on several conventions and somehow managed to make it to Fan Expo. So I don't know if there's something in the water here or what, but I'm glad to see him come out. I didn't go to anything. I'm pretty sure I got a picture with him at one of the previous conventions. So I've gotten that out of the way. The only reason why I'd go there is if I wanted to get some CGC signed comics or something like that, but that's not my thing. I do get some comics signed here and there, but I've kind of gotten away from that, especially for a Stan Lee. I think he would charge like an arm and a leg, so whatever. I don't need Stan Lee's autograph on all my comics. Really, I'd just rather have them in, untouched if I had anything worthwhile signing. But oddly enough, it's one of those things about Fan Expo that sometimes what you're looking forward to most. I mean, obviously Doctor Who was the big draw for me this year, and that's the reason why I had to go. That, and they had the two convention floors. I had to check it out. It was the big anniversary, so I was looking forward to seeing what was going on, and so that was a big reason why I spent the money and decided I was going to go to Fan Expo. But on the first day I was there, and you get the program. I was thumbing through it, and I was maybe at one of the Q&As or in line somewhere. I was probably in line for Doctor Who on Matt Smith's line, because that's the first thing I went to, because they had a Q&A, some Doctor Who thing going on with him and Arthur Darvill, because Karen Gillan was supposed to be there, but she had to cancel. So it was supposed to be all three of them, but it was just the two. And so I knew most of the Doctor Who fans were going to be there, so I went and immediately lined up to get his autograph out of the way and done. And so I believe that's when, going through the book, seeing what's going on, I came across something that I didn't know was happening. And it then became the highlight of my Fan Expo, well, other than Doctor Who, and that was that's right, folks. What you just saw there was a portion of the 25th anniversary of Prisoners of Gravity with Commander Rick, the photograph at the end. People who know the show, I'm sure you recognize it right off the bat. And I will have to say, I watch Prisoners of Gravity all the time. Even the boring episodes, because there are some boring episodes, but for all of you who, grew up in the internet age and all that kind of stuff and didn't grow up in the television age like I did, it was still geeks and nerds versus, jocks and such like that. We were kind of the outcasts, but Prisoners of Gravity was on television. Outside of, some of the sci-fi shows and such that were on television, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek, etc. Prisoners of Gravity looked at sci-fi, fantasy, literature, real actual things going on. It was really tackling, the art, like the authors out there who were writing this stuff. The footage and the interviews that they did was absolutely amazing, and it's one of those things that, and honestly, they talked about, and this is why I love that panel so much. They talked about what you saw, what you didn't see, how they managed to do it, and where it's sitting now. Because honestly, they have everything. They have all that footage, but the problem is rights. because this was all done back when nobody knew exactly what, you know, was going to happen. Well, it was just television, right? Nobody ever thought about the home video and then putting it to DVD and Blu-ray. But here's the thing that people don't, and except for people who maybe watched the show and who definitely were involved in making it, despite being way ahead of its time and this gate for people like, you know, myself and such into a world that we are really familiar with and love, it has, they accumulated so, like, interview footage with tons of people, including seminal authors and artists and such, who are no longer with us, who don't have any, they've never done any, you know, interviews on screen and such. So you think about, you know, some of those favorite sci-fi artists and and I'm talking the big names, and they are no longer with us. Prisoners of Gravity, they interviewed them, and they have that footage, and that was one of the things I'm so hoping somebody out there somewhere manages somehow, and they said they're working on it and they're looking through it and they're trying to figure out how, but somehow gets this out there. Not just as a Prisoners of Gravity set that has all the episodes, but here's what needs to happen. Blu-ray, Prisoners of Gravity, all the episodes, you know, that came out, as well as, and here's where worth more than what the actual Prisoner of Gravity episodes are, the actual full interview footage from every interview they ever did has to be extras, has to be out there, or at least as many as they possibly can, and just so that it's out there and the information is available to people, because right now it's not, and that is a shame. They, you know, the makers of the show think it's a shame. Everybody in that room, we weren't a large amount of people, but, you know, I was one of the youngest there, oddly enough, but we were all, you know, as we were hearing these things, we're all, you know, you could see it in everybody's faces, like, wow, the amount of stuff you guys shot that we didn't see all of, or didn't see at all. Wow, to be able to actually see this would be absolutely amazing. Like, the brain pan just explodes with the amount of knowledge and information that's out there that, you know, we just don't have access to. But so, yeah, that was my highlight of the convention. Well, next to Doctor Who. But, you know, timey-wimey, he's still young. He'll probably come back eventually, right? So yeah, I was pretty impressed with that. But yeah, guys, I don't know if you are, you know, I do get the autographs, so I do, for a portion of the convention, do go for the guests. Now, it has gotten to the point where it's mostly about the guests, because the offshoot events really haven't become, they've become pointless. They're mostly Q&As, a lot of which I've already done Q&As with a lot of these guests before, so what more am I going to learn? So yeah, it's getting to the point where I don't know how many more of these fan expos I want to do, simply because, yeah, unless there's a guest there I've never seen before and I want to get their autograph, or an event that I really need to see, like Prisoners of Gravity. And that's the whole thing. I was already there. I didn't know what was happening. You know, and that's one of the problems. It's like, I could be looking at it and going, wow, and I didn't buy tickets. And the thing with Fan Expo, if you don't buy tickets early, you may not get in at all. So, yeah, let me know, guys, if you do the conventions, are you there for the guests, or are you there for, you know, maybe you're there just for the merchants? I know a lot of people who just go to buy stuff. It's a really expensive way to buy stuff, but hey, some people, you know, save up their money just because they know everything's all in one place. So, yeah, you know where to post the comments. Post them down below. Until next video, take care. Have a good one.